realest coaches in the game. Coach RB and Coach CB. Area code 459.
What up, area code 459? It's your boy Coach B, and I'm here with my co-host Coach CB. What's up, CB?
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
Man, you know I'm blessed. I'm super excited because we got two guests in the house tonight. But before we get to our guests, let's go ahead and thank some people.
Man, we just want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors, East Bay In-House Ink and J Made Crafts. Couldn't have done it without them. They've done a great job getting our logo together, our merchandise store ready for you guys, so you can rep the area code 459 gear. Most importantly, we want to give a huge shout out to our friends, our family, everybody that has supported us. We couldn't have done it without the support. And most importantly, God for giving us the vision on how to use our ideas to shape the culture.
Man, today we're talking about how sports have shaped the culture. I get the opportunity to introduce my guy. He's coming back for a second time for a second round, Mr. Manny Bloom. He's currently the head coach, cross-country coach, and boys basketball coach and track and field coach at Gulliver Academy. He did 20 years as a head varsity basketball coach at Boca Raton High School, Northwest Guilford, Franklin County, Gulliver Prep. Worked and ran camps for 5-star basketball in the U.S. and internationally in the U.K. and Australia for over 17 years. He's going to his 22nd year as a teacher. He's currently working in PE, but also taught elementary school for 4 years to start his career. He's also hit me with a little nugget that he's actually been people want him all over the country, so watch out for this guy. He's placed multiple players at D1, D2, D3 schools in basketball and academic scholarships. He's been coach of the year various amounts of time, different years, multiple district championships, and 3 regional final appearances. He has multiple speaking engagements overseas and at coaching clinics. Y'all welcome Manny Bloom. What up, Manny?
Appreciate you having me, Coach Britton. As always, good to see you guys. Love being here with area code 459.
Man, and I'm so excited to introduce to you guys our second guest. He's originally a former player at James Madison University, and then he's been coaching in the game for 33 years now, and he has built a reputation for being an outstanding teacher where he has been able to help over 130 athletes earn scholarships to make their dreams become a reality. And on top of that, he has contributed his expertise at the Nike Hoops Jamboree, Nike All-American Camp, Michael Jordan Flight School, and the LeBron James Skills Academy. Along with camps and clinics, he has been a part of 5 nationally ranked high school programs, the most recent being Rhode Academy. Overall, he left the high school level with a record of 489 wins to 109 losses with 2 national championships as a result. And while at Rhode Academy, Coach was able to finish with a 186-33 record, which produced 55 Division I scholarship athletes and 3 All-American selections. Moving on to the college level, he has been an assistant coach at Old Dominion University, James Madison University, George Washington, and most notable, Georgetown. While he was at Georgetown, they made it to 2 postseason appearances where they were able to reach the round of 32. And after Georgetown, he moved to Pittsburgh, and now he is serving in his second year at the University of Rhode Island. Here, Coach is in charge of skill development, scouting, and managing the academic progress of student athletes. Over the course of his career, he has been able to contribute value and be a part of 15 nationally ranked programs. He has coached 9 McDonald's All-Americans, 8 former players have gone on to play in the NBA, and 17 have been able to continue their career over in the European and Asian professional leagues. To top it all off, he has been able to have 3 stints with USA Basketball, where he coached the junior development U16 team and the USA Basketball's U17 team, where he took the U16 team to the gold medal at the FIBA America tournament in Argentina, and the U17 team to gold at the World Championships in Germany. Let's welcome to the show, Coach Kevin Sutton. How you doing, Coach?
Oh, I'm blessed, and thank you so much. That was a long introduction, way too long.
Right. Well, we're blessed to have both you guys. Like I said, we're talking about how sports have shaped the culture. I'm not going to take anything away from our listeners because we want them to have every bit of it. But I just want to point out 2 things that we're going to be talking about. How does sports shape the culture and mold us? During this pandemic, we have seen interruptions, restarts, changes of focus, where all sports in our country have done different things. Needless to say, with all that's going on, I've seen sports figures cross collaborate with other sports, with the country, young boys and young girls watching these figures. We're going to look at, how this blockbuster image and how leveraging vision helps these young people out. So my first question, and this can go to you, Mr. Bloom, is going to be, I got it right here. Watching NBA take action not once but twice with shutting down its season to make waves for serious change and total support fight against social justice with Black Lives Matter. What impact do you think that sports have in this country?
Well, it's funny because that was the first question when you sent it to me, and I was just on a podcast, like I told you, with Coach Sutton, or on a Zoom session the other day with Coach Sutton and Jay Billis, and the question I asked in the group was about the media in general, and how the media affects this whole situation, and how it can, to one group of people, look one way, and to another group of people look a totally different way. And I think the players bring light to the side that we're all hoping people see. And they are such a big figure on that stage. They are the ones that we get to see them portray not only their opinions and their beliefs, but it's on the side that we as us for sure all believe we should be on, in this whole thing. Whereas when you're watching the media, you can watch one channel and maybe get a whole different opinion, and it's not maybe the side we want. And we all have those people in our lives, for better or worse, that have those feelings. But at the same time, if we're not willing to speak up for those, to those people, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. Those players now are speaking up for all of us, and I think it's really important and it's great because so many times pro athletes have used their voice or actions where maybe it was spun in a negative way. Especially in the news and with Sports Center, so many negative things happen. Now they're using it in such a positive way. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Coach.
I love how you talk about platform, because to me, working with little kids all the time, athletes are viewed as superheroes. Like, they look up to them. I don't care who they are, but I don't care if it's the 12th man on the NBA roster or LeBron James. They all look up to them exactly the same, and they want to be them. But Coach Sutton, why do you think athletes are given that godlike complex? Why do you think they're viewed as superheroes to these kids?
First and foremost, is because of the fact that they present to the kids something that they aspire to be. And one thing that I've tried to tell the student athletes that I serve is that it's part of the handshake deal. When God blesses you with a tremendous amount of talent, you have a responsibility to live up to that talent. And in doing so, they put themselves in a position where they can do some things that through sports that young kids and that you serve and young kids that you coach, they look up to them and they say, one day I want to be that person, and it's hopeful that the athlete will take on that responsibility and, not only perform in their respective field of sports, but they will also perform in their character, and they will also, take on the responsibility to do the right things so that we know that little eyes are watching us and everything that we do. And I say we because coaches have that same level of responsibility. We are figures should try to, carry ourselves in such a way that people would want to emulate us, but we also have that responsibility to make sure that we're making the right decisions. So, young kids are going to emulate those people that they, hope to someday to become.
Good, Coach. Thank you for those comments, and and I'm glad that you threw that. The coaches are like that too. Like, we have that same responsibilities that the players have. Just looking at the NBA restart that I just talked about. What I've noticed over the last trend of the decade since I've gotten from being a player to being a coach is that we've started to model like more of a business what am I trying to say here? Kind of more like a business model, right? Like hey, we're actually planning out what we're doing. We're just not moving. Everything's not irrational. Everything's well thought out, and it's a vision. Like with the NBA restart, you could kind of see how they went down to Orlando, where we've all worked in Florida, and you see how they've gone down there and they actually have a vision of what this should look like and how our message should be brought across. It's very planned out. It's very unique. And when young people look at some of these athletes and their platform and how they use not only sports, but also a business model to plan out things. Some have been able to, so when you look at this, what types of visions and plans do you think that young people do to ensure success? Or what do they look for to create success for themselves? Manny.
I mean, obviously, I think, all kids nowadays are more, and I deal with a younger group, obviously, than Coach Sutton now, but we've all dealt with the same ages in the past. I think kids are more planned out, and I think it is because they are watching these pro athletes be more precise and planned out with their careers and have more control over the things that they're doing. And like you said, it is more of a business model. I think as parents and coaches, we are approaching kids in a different way now, and more of that, hey, everything is scheduled out for them. Now, we say that as a negative sometimes too. Everything is scheduled out and planned out for these kids, maybe too much when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. But at the same time, I think what it is creating is kids that are being more precise and deliberate with their vision. Maybe sometimes, like I said, at too young of age, like my son has become a runner at the age of 13 from when he was young, and now has almost eliminated a lot of other things that he has enjoyed. And that's by his choice, but he has a vision now of what he wants to be at a very young age. So I think that's a lot different than when we grew up. I don't know that we had those visions at 13. I was playing 8 sports at 13 years old, right? And coming home after school, playing wiffle ball in the backyard, not thinking about training for some D1 scholarship like kids have to now. So I think that is a tribute and a detriment coming from up top, coaches, NBA players, pro athletes, soccer, football, all of them. It's just now you think that's how you have to be. You have to be programmed and scheduled to work at this level. And I think we have to balance it. And I think we have to help the kids balance that vision so that they can still be kids, but then also be successful.
Yeah, and I like how you guys bring the business model into it, because we've seen a lot of times that's become very transactional, where people say, shut up and dribble, or just stay in your place, or do your job. And many people, like I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and a lot of times they say athletes get paid to play their sport and that's their job. And if a businessman, teacher, or anybody else would step out and talk the way that like athletes are using their platform, then they would just get fired, and I don't think people understand the entirety of what it means to be an athlete. Like I said, it's a place where you're put above a lot of other people. Like you have a unique platform, and I think it's just because of how unified sports makes the culture in America, and like everybody comes together under one roof to watch one game, and it brings millions of people together. And I think that's why their platform is so much different than a regular job. But Coach Sutton, why do people often disrespect the platform of an athlete? And then how can we help the athletes gain more respect for their voice as a whole?
Well, first and foremost, those are just ignorant statements. When people says they'll shut up and dribble and stay in your place, those are just absolutely ignorant statements. And I just believe that racism is born out of fear, and it's born out of ignorance. And it's a learned behavior. And one thing that we know for sure, the ownership of most all of the professional teams and all, major sports is white males. So as rich as the players are, the owners are rich. So, let's just stop, being, uneducated to think that players are just running things. They're not running things. I mean, they have a platform and they're using platform. But, most sports, and they're still working for someone, even though they get paid. Sports are, a major part of America's fact. Sports are a major coach. But we're seeing right now the power of college football, and so we have to understand that it is, as much as we want it to be a sport, we know that it is a business. And Manny's heard me say this a lot of times, love the game. We all love the game. That's why we get involved in it. That's why we played it. But we have to learn that it is a business as well. And it's going to be run as a business. And with the idea of profit. So, we have to, and what I've seen during this pandemic is just, how powerful and how important sports are in our society. People are, disrespectful to athletes because they view us as dumb jocks, that don't really have a brain. We just should just, that we're powerful, that we use our voice. A guy like LeBron to acknowledge that athletes can be intelligent, articulate, and have a social conscience, etc. Athletes have to continue to stay vigilant. They must continue to use their platform. They must continue to be brave. They must be willing to lose the battle to win the war. And I say that because, when athletes speak out and they take on a bigger, role, they do run the risk of losing endorsements. They do run the reform, but they have to be bold. They have to be brave. And that happens now.
Yeah, Coach, man, and we lost a little bit of you there, but I think we caught a lot of what you were saying, and especially that. Say it again.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I was just basically just trying to capture that, and if I didn't, let me know. But just players having to be bold, having to use their position, not listen to the ignorant statement, understanding that their sports is a business, but at the same time, they have the leverage in the business. And I think that's what a lot of sports athletes are starting to see, that you have the leverage because of who you are and what you mean. Like I try to tell people in my history class when I used to teach history was, hey, our country is built on capitalism, right? Supply and demand. My talent is something that you demand, and I will supply it at a nominal fee, right? You can go to a car lot and they're going to do the same thing to you. You can go to the doctor's office. You want that shot. You want that medicine. You want that cure. They're going to do the same thing to you. Every model of business does that to you, except for sports, because people want you to just shut up and dribble. Well, that's not okay, right? These athletes are saying, hey, this is my platform. This is my leverage. Like you said, stay vigilant, and it's your responsibility. It's your duty to make sure that you do that. When we look at that, we look at, we're talking about this larger life persona and sports creates for individuals, and really at all levels, man. I've watched Pee Wee football where the fastest kid on the football field, like everybody knows that kid, right? In AAU basketball, we always have our cameras out. Kid crosses a kid over, dunks on a kid. McDonald's All-American, all facets of professionalism. Manny, do you feel that the athlete has more of a responsibility, and what steps can they take to take that ownership of that responsibility?
Well, I think they have more responsibility, and I think it goes along with a variety of professions. As teachers, coaches, I think we have more of a responsibility than an accountant that goes and works at a desk all day. Because we're on a stage in front of kids, in front of people, in front of the nation. Same thing for politicians. I think they have more of a responsibility, right? So when you talk about athletes, of course they have more responsibility. They have a larger audience, and they influence people much more than your average Joe that's just walking around the street. So I do think they have more of a responsibility. And like Coach Sutton said, though, the scary thing is, they're putting themselves on the line sometimes for that responsibility, and we all are. I was working with a little kid the other day, fourth grader, and he says, the NBA got shut down because of COVID again. And I looked at his dad, and because that's obviously what his dad told him. And I looked at him, kind of got a read on it, and I said, well, you know, it wasn't because of COVID that it got shut down. And I started to not go into crazy depth. I mean, he's 10, but I went into, you know, there's some racial issues going on in our world, and they've been going on, and that's why the NBA got shut down. And the dad would let me go with it, and I didn't talk long, but saying those things, you know, you're putting yourself on the line. Like maybe that guy doesn't hire me again. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe my school doesn't want me saying things like that. And not because of their beliefs, but because of you don't want conflict. You don't want, and that's what these athletes go through every day. Mm-hmm. You know, luckily LeBron and some of these guys and Chris Paul are in a situation where they feel like they have so much credibility and power in that league mm-hmm. that they can do that. Look at Colin Kaepernick. I mean, he almost lost his whole career. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, and I'm glad it worked out for him the way it came back, but it could have easily just been gone forever. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough thing. Think about that. If you were putting your career on the line every day for your beliefs.
Mm.
That is tough because there's no other way to say it, but that's just really tough, you know, and I applaud him for being courageous enough to put his dreams on hold to benefit us as a country. And I love that you guys said responsibility, because I don't think a lot of people understand the extra responsibility that is always put on athletes. Like when I was in school, when I was at my school, at Pensacola Christian College, I'm at a conservative school, and they expect me to, as an athlete, represent their school the way they want it represented. They expect me to live my life to a certain standard. They expect me to say and speak certain ways, and a lot of times that pressure can get to you. And I think that we have to be there for those athletes and teach them how to use that responsibility the right way. And Coach, like you said, we were talking earlier, you said the athletes have, like, kids look up to athletes just because it's the athlete is a manifestation of what they want to be when they grow up. And I believe that the most impact I had is when there was a college basketball player that was at a community center in Panama City, and I was in 9th grade at the time, 10th grade, just picked up the game of basketball, and he looked at me and said, because I was out there playing with all the boys, and he said, you have something special. He said, don't ever give up, keep working hard, and it's going to come around and you're going to find success in it. And that was the turning point in my belief in myself to never give up on my dream. You know, and I hadn't even never played basketball before. I just quit the sport I'd done my whole entire life. And for him, as a Division I athlete, to come around and tell me that made the biggest difference in my life. And so from that point on, I understood the importance of coming back into your community and being that visual and being present in the community to give those kids and the people around you hope. So how can we, as an athletic community, be present more in our community, either if it's like while we're at school, being able to do community service or something like that, but how can we do it more often so we give hope and empower the next generations? Coach Sutton.
Yeah, that's always been a pillar of my programs. You know, being totally aware of the role, the responsibility that you have. And to me, I think it's a part of the handshake deal, you know, with God. When he blesses you with the talent, you shake his hand and accept that talent, but also you shake his hand and say, I'm going to live fully in that talent and use my talent to help other people. And that's part of my responsibility. You know, my high school coach, who's a Hall of Fame coach, used to say to us on a daily basis, your ability is God's gift to you. What you do with that ability is your gift to God, and don't ever cheat God. So if you can understand that and live that out, then you can have the responsibility, the willingness, the responsibility to come back into the community and do what happened to you. Our words have power, you know, regardless of what our stature is in life. Our words have power. They have the ability to empower people and build them up, and we have the ability to use our words to tear people down. One thing that I talk about all the time, and Manny's a huge a part of this, is what I call living trophies. And I say to our Zoom group every week about we have the opportunity as educators and leaders, coaches, teachers, to be the ladle that pours water into our student athletes and the students that we have that we serve, and fill their buckets up. And then we also have that opportunity on a daily basis to be that ladle that takes the water out of their bucket. You know, just think if that young man, that student athlete told you that, what are you doing out here? You're a girl. What are you doing out here playing with boys? You can't play with boys. That could have changed the trajectory of your life because you were just picking up a sport. You could have just turned and walked away and never played basketball again. But what he did was poured water into your bucket, and he made you start to believe, and then gave you hope. And for me, I use HOPE as an acronym, and it stands for help other people excel. If we can continue to just be those pillars in the community and take on that responsibility, and whether we win a national championship or whether we're the all-time leading scorer, you know, I think our position as human beings in the human race is more of, you know, us doing what we can where we are, and just try to be the best that we can possibly be. And when we do that, we're touching, you know, people in a mighty way because of the words that we have. And like I said before, you know, living trophies to me is when you take the opportunity to invest in the people that we serve, that we lead, and we care for. And when we do that and we help them reach their full potential, then they become our living trophies. And we all have won trophies and we stuck them in a trophy case. Well, that's where they stay. But when you pour into people and you impact their lives, they become your living trophies, and then they have so much more mobility and so much more of an impact. So take that as a responsibility, and wear it and throw your chest forward and wear it as a badge of honor. We should never take it as a heavy load and allow it to roll our shoulders inward. You know, I always use the analogy of a backpack, especially with the student athletes that I had at Montverde, because they were coming from different countries, Luke Rashad and Bahamute, and those guys were coming from different countries. And I said, your success here at Montverde will beget the success of the next Cameroonian. Well, he was very, very successful because he lived up to, you know, our three mantras. And subsequently, we continue to bring student athletes from the continent of Africa as well as from Cameroon, because Luke came and did what he was supposed to do and how he was supposed to do it. And he was a man of character, and he was not a person who was a character. So we all have a responsibility to do what our very, very best wherever we are. So use it as a badge of honor, you know, and just thrust your chest forward and carry it.
Fire me up. Help other people excel. Help other people excel, Coach. Man, you hit the nail on the head right there. But I really like the analogy that you just gave us with you're a ladle, and people don't understand with the ladle, like you can pour in or you can pour out. You can affect people positive, you can affect people negative. Like you said to CB, like, hey, CB, if he would have told you XYZ, you would have changed everything about you, you know, but he didn't. He poured into you. And there's been so many coaches that's poured into me. Manny Bloom is one of them that's poured into me. And Manny, this question is for you, and Coach Sutton, you can chime in on this one as well. To be honest, man, you know, watching what's going on in our country, I'm hurt, confused, sometimes upset at the social justice injustice that we continue to see in this country. And it really, I think what really kind of gets me to the core is people act as if like sports have not been the key source of entertainment for this country. You look at World War I, you look at World War II, you look at any time that there has been issues in our country, what has united our country, what has brought us to the forefront, and it's been sports. Taking a note out of Chris Webber's book, who is the former Sacramento Kings Hall of Famer, he said this the other day when the NBA stopped. He said, I'm calling for action. He's like, you know, at some point we have to act, right? At some point we have to act. And he said, I'm asking the NBA players to have a plan and to have and then put into action their plan. Coach Manny, how can we as coaches be the root of the plan of changing our society?
Well, I think similar to what they did. Obviously, they called for a plan, and before they started playing, even though it might have only been 24, 48 hours, And people might be like, oh, look, they're back playing again. Well, but they put a plan in action to use their arenas as voting polls, right? So when you do something like that, now you have action, you have a plan that is going to get people out to vote, that then in return can change maybe the outlook on our country from the political side, right? So that's a deep connection and rooted thing. As coaches, we have to do things like that as well, you know, where we come in with our teams and our whole season might have a plan to get a group of young people to see whether it's the injustice that's going on and the things we can do in our local community. Because maybe our high school team can't affect the nation, but maybe it can, you know, because maybe when they do affect locally, and then all of a sudden another coach says, oh, I love what they're doing. And then all of a sudden it was like years ago, there was a kid at Boca High that they wrote a national article on because he sat with kids at lunch that didn't have friends. Right. I don't know if you guys heard about that. You know, he became national news.
Mm-hmm.
He was a young African-American kid that just felt bad for kids that were sitting by themselves.
Mm.
So he took it upon himself to be just sitting with them. And then all of a sudden it went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know what you do, how big it can be, but you can't do it with the notion that it has to be big. Like you want to go into it. Oh, I want this to be national, this to be big. No, you got to do it because it's right. Do it for those kids, and then wherever it goes, it goes. If it stays in your little circle, it stays in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets on area code 459, hey, then we go in national, baby. But that's, you know, but that's what it is. And I think, you know, Coach Sutton can obviously chime in. I know he has similar views on those things because we've talked a lot.
No, absolutely, Manny. Very well said. But I think the first thing and just to play off of Manny's, you know, last name, and he's heard Kevin Eastman say this before, you got to bloom where you plant it. You know, so wherever you are, you got to start there. You know, if we start in our homes, you know, that's the first place to start. And then then we start affecting our communities. And then we can continue to, like Manny said, you know, just, you know, be the spark that leads to, you know, the flame, you know. But first and foremost, I think we got to, as individuals, you know, we have to do the self-evaluation. You know, we got to take inventory of our own moral obligations and our own moral compass, and, you know, develop the courage to stand on the side of what is right. You know, then we got to speak out against what that we know is wrong. You know, but that starts with you as an individual. And then we got to be brave. We got to be bold. We got to be fearless, you know, about, okay, I'm going to do this, you know, this because I know this to be the right thing, because this is what my belief system tells me. And then we must also, you know, understand that we fight in the present, you know, and it can be realized and it can be impactful, you know, in the future. But we may not be here when that impact, you know, or when that seed that we plant today, you know, blossoms. And we may not even be here, but we got to plant the seeds now, you know, and that's wherever we are. You know, the future might be in the future of our children. And that's why, you know, I'm all in right now. And I know Manny's all in for sure, because he's trying to do what's right for the future, which is his children. You know, he wants to leave a legacy, and I know I do. I want to leave this world, you know, a better place than I found it, because that's always been what I've been about with the programs. And I want to leave my daughter. I have 4 children, but my 10-year-old daughter, you know, I want to, you know, leave this place, you know, better. You know, and my children are biracial, so they gotta deal in a world that's really, you know, really difficult. And they got to walk in a circle. So I got to stand up. My wife has to stand up, and we got to talk about these things. We got to educate them first and foremost that they are a child of God and they're special, you know, and they got to believe in that. And then they got to say, you know, how do I deal with these things that people say that I'm not this and I'm not that, and this is right and this is wrong. And we have to educate them through that part. And, you know, and we got to do more than just put out tweets of, you know, former, you know, people in history like Dr. King and, you know, John Lewis and Malcolm X and, you know, Thurgood Marshall. We got to do more than just put out there what they said. You know, we got to start, you know, living out, you know, what our call, you know, of action is. And right now, you know, I'm a part of, you know, a platform that's going to be announced for the A10, you know, called A10 Coaches, you know, Connecting for Change. And our three pillars are, you know, we got to educate, we got to empower, and then we got to evolve. So I really, truly believe that, right now, 2020 is a great awakening. We're in the middle of two pandemics, a health pandemic that really showed us as a country, that we really are not prepared and we're unprepared and not educated on. And then now, obviously, we're involved in a social unrest pandemic that has, divided our country too. So in order for us to bring us back together as a nation, using sports as a platform. If you remember, back in when 9/11 happened, they couldn't get back quick enough to play baseball because you know what it did? It brought our country back together. And but the difference is at that time we knew that Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden was the enemy. But right now we're fighting against ourselves. So it's internal. So we got to figure this out, and hopefully sports can be that venue, that platform to do that, to bring us back together, and make us better. That's the thing is we gotta make ourselves better, and I really believe through education, we can do that. Through an empowerment, we can do that, and then we can evolve because what we want is for people to evolve. We want an evolution. We don't want a revolution.
Right. Man, I like that you said that, Coach. And, man, we're getting ready to wrap up at area code 459. We come to a huddle, and we usually, have that call to action. But I think I asked everybody their call to action early but in one of my questions. But I like that you said evolve because I used to teach revolutions happen real fast and real quick. Evolutions take time, but then it ultimately creates a real change. So I really like that. We're going to just have quick mottos of, anything that you want to leave on the table. We'll start with Caitlin, then we'll go to Coach Bloom, Coach Sutton, you'll go, and then I'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Value and let's get 1% better every day.
So, obviously I'm a big Peloton person now. So, a lot of working out with Peloton, and the instructors are super inspirational to me. And be better and do it now. It's a blessing to be able to do this. It's a privilege. Like every time we get on the bike or the treadmill, like they always remind you, like, look, this is a privilege. Like you don't have to be here. You want to be here and you get to be here. So that's what I would say in life in general.
For me, I want to challenge the listening audience to keep striving, to become a better person, to become a better, professional. Keep sharing your time, keep sharing your knowledge, keep serving the people that are under your leadership. And then finally, if you keep striving and you keep sharing and you keep serving, you will continue to keep soaring.
There you go. And mine is, I have a famous quote by Abraham Lincoln, and it goes, from most, he said, you can learn from anyone, but from most, you learn what not to do. But the first part of that quote is that you can learn from anyone, and we're all educators in our right mind. I just ask people to go out there, continue to, read up, educate yourself, but then also educate others by inspiring love, harmony, self-empowerment, and then also community. Like Coach Sutton said, Coach Bloom, we have to do this together. We have to grow together. And we have to keep building up our culture, and we can do it through sports. Coaches, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm super blessed. Man, y'all have a wonderful day. And like Coach B says, let love be the frequency. I'm out. Peace.